where we are, it needs to sort of fit for this to make sense and to be correct.
But getting back to the topic then, I mean, for one, it was fun to see, and I'm impressed, and I know the government offices of Sweden here is very innovative, and it's glad to hear that you actually are hearing similar kind of experiences when speaking to other agencies that we have in Sweden. But can you give some example, perhaps, when speaking to other agencies, what do they say if they compare what they are doing to what you're doing?
So most of the times we would talk to other agency, it would be from a kind of generative AI point of view.
Yeah.
So what Magnus is saying, us going back to the 1600s, we could probably do what we did then without, technology. I mean, we could do our job without computers or AI. Exactly. Yeah. So we don't have any systems like, the tax agencies has the list of all the people living in Sweden, and we don't really have any services towards the citizens or the corporations in Sweden. So a lot of what we're doing right now is in generative AI. And when talking to other agencies, we want to learn from them because we started with this in the spring. And we found out that the kind of scale that we are testing and running it at is pretty fast compared to others. So most of the times when we're, reaching out, we want to hear what Pensionsmyndigheten or someone else is doing. They quickly want to know what we do, and that the conversation has a quick turnaround.
And if you try to contrast sort of the angle you're working on and the angle that usually what you met other people working on, is it a distinct difference here that you've been going in the agentic or agent route or assistant route and then unpacking the problem from that angle, and they coming more from IT or data, or what is the contrasting difference? Because some of these, as you assume, they are great or maybe better at some of the other parts of this puzzle. So what have they been focusing on you differently?
I'd say, if anything, we've put the core business in front. They are driving the change.
Very good.
It's not IT that it's not a tech project.
Awesome.
It's
awesome.
What we find is cognitively mature civil servants in a very knowledge-intensive environment longing for this new tool. So suddenly when they get their hands on it, they take off. And we sort of, trying to
so this is very
rein
different
them
than
in.
when you're trying to push a technology from underneath that they don't even understand. Here we have the opposite scenario, really.
Yes. And it's really interesting environment, Regeringskansliet, in that sense, because it's packed with intelligent, hardworking, and loyal people that is working under hard pressure, and they really need to deliver. So as soon as they see a shortcut, any way to do their job better and to deliver more, they will go for it.
I mean, it's nice. And it's also nice that even though you have very traditional workflows, so to speak, and I'm sure you as an history expert as well will describe more what that really means, you can still keep the traditional workflows, but simply empower them with technology or AI in this case, right? And that still makes a lot of value for the business, so to speak.
Yes, it's part of the principles that we're working for, putting the human in the center.
Yeah.
And what we're doing is we're cognitively enhancing the civil servants to build a wiser state or a wiser government. So actually the focus is on the people, to making them do better in what they're already doing. So we're not primarily changing processes.
We're
enhancing people.
That comes later, yeah.
Yes.
But I think this is very important, and we can come into this rabbit hole later on, because I think, especially when we go the agentic route or agent route, immediately you come into the fundamentals of topics like agency, And in a large enterprise where I have done a lot of work, that is probably typically a problem, that we have nice workflows that looks good on paper, but as soon as it's unclarity of who's doing what or what teams should be doing what or serving who, you have a problem. So maybe this whole view of starting from the team perspective and what the servants within the team does and how we build from there with agents in mind is maybe a key recipe This is something I want to explore today.
Well, I certainly want to learn more how you did it,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
why other agencies may not be as successful as you have in making AI actually create value, which it sounds like it has. So very eager to get into that rabbit hole and learning more from you in this podcast. But first, very welcome to the AI After Work podcast, Peter Nordström and Magnus and Enzell.
Thank you.
And if we start with you, Peter, I understand you work in a digitalization office, or what's the name of it in English? Digitalization strategy, or what would we call
So we
it?
reorganized last fall.
Yeah.
So we're part of it's the old IT department that has had a facelift. So we're now the digitalization department. So we work for the government and serving all our offices.
Yeah.
So is that a broad scope from these, very cutting edge agents we're going to talk about, but also more practical emails and networks and all that kind of stuff, or have you separated that?
No, we do it all. We service, and I was so impressed when I started because I came from the tax agency, where you're 10,000 employees with 2,000 people working in the IT department, and then I came here to the government, and we're roughly 6,500 people, both in Stockholm and in 100 countries with our embassies.
Right.
And we're under 300 people in the IT department, but everything is working. The telephones, the emails, all the systems are online. So impressed by how well we've been able to service everything.
Sounds very efficient.
It's really interesting that you come from the tax authority as well, because they are also very good at digitalization and also starting to use AI more and more in a really good way. But before we go into that and your current role in the government offices in Sweden, perhaps you can just speak a bit about who is really Peter Nordström.
Oh, so I sent an email to my new team yesterday. So I changed my role, and I was thinking about what would I say, and I guess I came up with I'm a nerd, so I love to play video games. I still play the old ones, Quake 3, Warcraft 3. Love esports, love movies, but at the same time, I play golf. I hang out with my friends. But most of all, family man, hang out with the kids.
And how many at the Regeringskansliet knows you have a background in stand-up comedy?
Not many at all. I think only Magnus now knows it.
Too few.
But that was a whole lifetime ago.
Like AI lifetime, like last year, or you mean normal lifetime?
No, normal lifetime. Yeah. I think it was 15 years ago I last was on stage doing stand-up.
Which one was your biggest gig?
So it was, I did something called bungee comedy, which was like the Idol, but for stand-up. So it will be, tryouts, semifinals and finals. And I actually made it all the way. And really good comics came from there. Messiah Hallberg, Björn.
Messiah came that way.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think it's impressive. Being a stand-up comedian is actually very difficult, and I think that's so valuable.
Communication skills
to have with the timing and the way you phrase it, and even we are very much inspired by your Rogan podcast, and he is a stand-up comedian as well, and I think he really have a lot of benefits from that.
But I need to take it back to one of your key rants on what is the most important skill for a great engineer. And then communication skills is maybe one of the highest, because it doesn't matter how good you are if you can't convey what you're doing. And you need to put the punchline where it belongs when you do stand-up comedy. So I think it's a fairly cool connection here.
Yeah.
So
it's so hard, though. I just want to say it's so hard, because it's one thing, going on the stage and delivering the jokes. But writing them is so tough. Will people find this funny? I find it funny. You'll try it out on a few friends. They think it's funny, and then you go on stage. And I told Magnus, it sucks to deliver your best joke and 100 people are silent. It's so quiet.
How good do you think AI is in writing jokes these days?
The little I have tried, not great, but it's really good to get you started.
Cool. And if you were to just introduce a bit more about the current role in the government offices, what do you do?
So I'm the head of a unit where we have architecture, IT security, and innovation. And it's the innovation part I've been working on since I joined in January. So we kind of act as an incubator where we take new ideas, new projects, and try them out. If it works, we'll put it into the ordinary kind of line of business. If it doesn't, just kill your darling and go on to the next. So it's really cool to have like an incubator in a government office.
Yeah, it's very cool.
It's very.
Did you call it incubator? What's the Swedish name for it?
Oh yeah, this is going to be a linguistic challenge with all these kind of translations. And I'm so impressed by your English, Magnus. You're so good. But yeah, we actually call it an incubator.
Inkubator in Swedish.
Yeah.
Or
exactly.
you're cooler than that and uses the English terminology.
We don't have any English words, no.
That's maybe one thing that is interesting, like in government and stuff like that. Then you have your Swedish or your native tongue word for things. When you come to Scania, they don't care. They use the terminology like in tech, right? It's so obvious.
Can I tell you something really cool? We do have one thing with an English name, and we call it quick wins. The idea was that you could take something to the IT department that's everyday struggle, and it's something that we can fix in 3 weeks. For example, why is not everybody a presenter in Skype for Business? We can fix that immediately. So in with that, we fix it. But when we went out to the and meeting with the like, how do you say the ordinary, like the
Civil servants?
Yeah, the civil servant.
The core business.
The core business. We went out to the core business and, asked them, what are you kind of struggling with, to identify quick wins. And we told them it's something that needs to be able to be quickly fixed. 3 weeks. And the first things they kind of listed was, auto reply on all my emails. So the kind of expectations from the line of business on what we can do quick is so big.
Okay.
Interesting. Cool. And Magnus and Enzell, very welcome here, you as well.
Thank you.
And please describe your role. You're a change manager. Is that the proper way to describe it, or what?
Yes. Normally, though, I work at Minister of Finance in the line.
Okay.
In the department called digitalization of the public sector. So I've been doing public policy for nearly 20 years within the field. But now I'm then working 80% as a change manager for this project with a particular focus on AI, of introducing AI agents or assistants, I should say.
How did you come into that role? Because I think it's brilliant that you have the background, you have done a lot of different things since, was it 2006?
Yes.
Yes, and now you're change manager.
Yes.
In AI.
Yes, I came in under Anders Borg and Mats Odell during the finance crisis. So I've been working there for a long time. I was brought in to the reference group, actually, to the digitalization strategy. And me and other couple of other civil servants we were critical to the early on strategy because of very tech oriented. So we managed to sort of turn it around to make it more business focused. And I think maybe there was sort of the natural step in for me to
I'm just curious how you got asked the question, or how it was framed and pitched to you. You need to become a change manager in AI, or did it evolve? How did that go about?
No, that was actually an offer I got from the director of digitalization. And they asked me, do you want to come in and do this?
So you have some sort of solid and dotted line to the digitalization director and to your home department, or how does it work?
Well, I was part of the reference group, so we got to know each other, and there was the question, and from sort of the formal point of view, I'm alone. So I'm on loan from the line to the section, the innovation section under Peter.
And this was my real question. How did you solve it? Because typically to bridge tech and business and make them speak the same language and actually innovate together, is hard in many organizations, and
Perhaps you
practically
should need to add that as a topic to the list
That's
of
a great
topics. But before we continue too much, I'd love to hear a bit more about your personal background as well. I know you have a PhD in political science as well. Perhaps you can just elaborate a bit more on what did you actually research at that time?
I was doing constitutional history, actually with.
What does that mean? Constitutional history.
Well, we have a constitution in Sweden, as America has.
Yes.
It's just that our constitution is less known, and its status and authority in the Swedish political culture is a bit unsure. So I was investigating how that came to be, because during the 19th century, you had an equally strong role as it has in America. So something changed. And I was researching how that change came about between 1907 and 1917. So there was a shift in the Swedish political culture. And that was my dissertation. But it's basically a dissertation on conceptual history. I consider myself as being a conceptual archaeologian. I dig up old concepts to see how they come about and how they work today.
I'm so eager to go to hear what you think about the current Trump administration, but perhaps you shouldn't.
Don't take me there.
But are you a history buff? Have you always been a history buff since kid, or like interested in history?
If Peter is a stand-up comedian, I'm the philosopher. So I'm more of a sort of philosophical take on things, and part of that is being historically sensitive to whatever we're trying to understand.
Know your past.
Yes, path-dependent history making.
Oof.
I mean, so impressive to hear, and I think the role you have is so important and difficult to do. But I would love to jump into the meat, so to speak, of the discussion and the theme of the podcast as well, to hear more about, the different type of digital assistants that you have in the government offices. And if I understand correctly, you're having more like 30 of them, or how many exists today?
Yeah, I think at least 30.
Yes.
We have 30 in the spring, and we've killed some of them that hasn't worked, and some that has worked we've built upon. But we're making it pretty easy to create new ones and try them out. And we're also pretty quick to identify the ones that don't work or the ones that we shouldn't do because of high risk according to AI Act or something like that.
Let me put the signpost right there. This needs to be a rabbit hole on its own. Park that question. How to rapid prototype and get going with stuff, and what works you scale and what doesn't work doesn't scale. Simple to say, really hard for most companies to make happen.
Yeah.
Let's really dig into how you did that,
Because that you do fail fast. I think that's important.
Fail fast. The whole we're going to be the best at failing fast.
Spotify, yeah.
Spotify, right? This is so cool stuff, right? And so hard. And I want to know let's park it, but later on, I really want to know the mechanics to make that work.
Sure.
And I'm thinking about, I'd love to hear the story, how you get started with the whole digital assistant project, etc. But perhaps we can start by start to speak about the specific use case. If you were to pick one assistant that we can speak about, and you just try to describe how it works a bit, and then perhaps we can go back a bit about how you got started in general, so to speak, with all the work with the different assistants. Is it someone that we can use as just a good example of how you work?
Examples is easier to follow.
Yes.
I think I can give the background and you'll tell the example.
Sure.
So the first week I was at the Regeringskansliet, there was this health day that HR put together.
A
health day.
Health.
Yeah, health. Exactly. Yeah. So we had line dancing, we had yoga and different, activities throughout the day. But we didn't have anything from, the digitalization department. So I sent in, I want to do 3 walks, and I want to walk around Gamla Stan, and I'll, everyone can come, and I'll tell the one we're going to do, and, listen in. It was a total fiasco. The first walk, nobody came. And I had prepared so much, the first internet cafe in Sweden was in Gamla Stan, and, did all this trivia. The second walk, nobody came, and I started to feel pretty down. But on the third walk, I met this guy called Birger, and we started talking, and he wanted to become a local admin on his computer so he could install Python, because he had an idea of using AI and building an assistant that could put together loads of information to create what we think is going to be our killer app. And I'll let you tell about the killer app. But that was the background. And also what's really cool, Birger is in our team. So I asked him, like,
how long ago was this?
Come and work for us. This was in January, the first week.
Really?
Yeah. So now he's part of the team, and that's kind of been, the way we have been working. We find someone out there that has brilliant ideas, that is wicked smart, and everybody is super smart. And then we ask them, do you want to come and help us out? And most of the times they say,
easy.
It's so impressive that you've done so much in such a short period of time. That's really impressive. But perhaps, it could be nice to just have some concrete examples still to...
What is it? What's the killer app?
Well, it's the company analyst.
Company analyst, okay.
Not many people know this, but government is actually a big owner of companies. So they have a portfolio of companies, right?
Vattenfall.
LKAB and PostNord.
I worked at Vattenfall.
Yes, Vattenfall, all of those. So it's actually 40 companies. And they turn around 850 billion kroners, and they employ 122,000 people. So it's quite important that government is a responsible and forward-looking administrator of that company portfolio, right? Yes. To be able to do that, you need to analyze a whole bunch of company information. Right. So there's a whole department doing this, and what they were doing was downloading the reports, reading the reports, sitting down, taking notes, and that took 24 weeks.
Exactly.
To
cover in a year, right? 24.
24 weeks to do sort of an analytical cycle of those 40 companies, and they have different dimensions that they have to do to go through, whether it's sustainable and whether you have human rights or whether it's efficient or what have you.
Yeah.
So what they did was to make the analytical assistant of companies. So they prompt an assistant and downloaded the reports and uploaded the reports into the assistant, and they prompted it. And the prompt, when we look at it, is, I think it's 6.5 A4 pages long.
Questions that you want to dissect from the data.
It's actually their analytical and judgment framework that they used manually, that they put into the prompt.
Same workflow. It's
the same workflow, but they put it in the system prompt. And now they're doing the same analytical work with higher quality in 6 weeks.
From 24
rather than 24.
To 6 weeks. 24 to 6 weeks for a department.
Yes.
And there's so many angles here, but where to start even?
Perhaps you can just how does it work underneath?
Yes,
can
I
you
want
go?
to start there.
I'm more of a techie person as well, so I love
But it's
to hear a
interesting
bit
to understand
about
concretely what are the mechanics. Is it a rag?
So could you describe it a bit more, perhaps?
Sure. So we're using a platform called Intric, and you can build AI assistants in those. And an AI assistant is basically a package of information and prompts and data that you pack together and send off to the language model to get your response back. And part of that is a RAG database with the knowledge that you want to be part of your analytical stack, whatever you want to call it. So when you build this assistant, you first make sure that you structure your knowledge sources, upload them into the assistant, and then prompt the assistant to do what you want. And a lot of things what we've been doing is teaching the civil servants the craft of prompting.
Right.
So even if we change platform, thou shalt know thy prompting. Okay. Because it's you need to know how a RAG database work. And you know when to trust it and not to trust it.
So you're saying that for a first-time user that have no idea how to work it, they will not be able to find value as easily unless they're trained for it.
For simple cases, you would definitely find value. For more complicated cases, like the company analyst, you need to be able to prompt it properly to get the proper answer.
It makes sense that you are essentially dealing with the system. It's the data part, it's the integration part, all this stuff. So if you don't have any awareness of that, the system that you can deal with as a newbie is very simple. But the more
So how does it work then? Can you go a bit more? So you use Intric. Did you buy that recently, or did you already have that available in the government offices? Or
No, we purchased it before the summer, so we did some tests with other vendors, and we've been trying to stay as, we want to be language agnostic all the way. What we enjoy with this platform is we can choose between language models from Anthropic or OpenAI. And we also have the open source models, which are hosted here in Sweden, so Geometry and Llama, etc., which is really cool because that puts us in a position where we can start to see if we can handle more sensitive information, depending on what model we choose and where it's stored. But it's still, we're testing, and even though we're testing at big scale and we want to keep testing at an even bigger scale, what keeps me up at night is doing, a huge investment in something that's going to be completely outdated in 1 year. So we want to use cloud services as far as it's possible. We don't really have the knowledge how to handle the GPUs in-house. We also don't really have the personnel to do it. So anything that's, easily accessible, easy to try and get value from, that's where we want to be.
And you use cloud services now? So you're running Intric on some public cloud, or is it some on-prem solution that you're having?
No, it's a cloud service.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Was that tricky to get through, security-wise and all the thing? We keep hearing the public sector is in pain over cloud. And I think it's about knowledge and understanding of how to do it safely. And if you know what you're doing, it's safer, in my opinion, in many ways. But how did you manage that?
So we look at it from all the different angles, from IT security, information security, the legal aspects, and there are a lot of new questions here. And it's so hard because there are no answers to it as of yet. I mean, the kind of system prompt Magnus is talking about, is that, public information or not? So we have the Swedish law covering, the information being made available. So there's so many hard questions here, but the approach in, we are testing and trying, it's not just the technology, it's everything, around it as well.
You're testing and trying not only the tech, but actually the legal boundaries, the regulatory, all this. And I think this is one of those signposts that I was looking for. I'm gonna put a rhetorical question where I have an opinion and an answer to. Can you even get close to something meaningful in terms of results and answers to these questions without trying and testing and piloting? Can you get close to anything meaningful in PowerPoints?
I think we've noticed this, and I think this has been one of the sort of most important results of the first pilot phase that we did, was that when we started, the questions you could ask was so general that you couldn't get a straight answer.
Oh, you frame it so well.
Once we have the company analyst in place, you can start ask questions on the right level. And then you can get a yes or no, or maybe, or now maybe we should dive into this particular question and see where it takes us. So it needs to be a trial and error that takes you down to a level where you can ask the proper questions.
And that to me is both in terms of the assistant working, but also in the bigger question on can we do it? Are we allowed to do it? And all this. You cannot answer that until you've done it. And I mean, it's a typical law perspective. Show me your data model and then I'll tell you if it's correct or not. then you need to build it. Oh, you're not allowed to build it, you know. So you need to go down this route, safely, of course.
But you have to be humble. And I mean, what we can do is make sure that the tech that we deliver is, you know, robust. It's good. We've tried it. We've done our pen test, etc. But one of my favorite cases, so we had Erika. She got in touch and asked if she could get one license. I said sure, and she wanted to try it, you know, just as a kind of chatbot. I think it was 5 or 6 weeks later, she told the story, what she and the team had done. So each year, about 6,000 people call the government's office, and they can, you know, call and ask, what are you guys going to do about, you know, the bank and the high prices? When are you going to ask them to lower it? And they could ask, you know, what are you doing about the fishes in the sea or something like that. And at the end of the year, we take all these phone calls and we'll just analyze them and break them down. And this is manually done. And she said that she and her team had done it manually, and then they did it with AI, and they came to the same results. So they stood on stage in front of the whole government and said, we're not going to do it manually anymore. And we had no idea about them doing it. We just took part of the result. And that's pretty hard for an IT department to just, okay, you do it.
And the point here, and I want to compliment that, was that we're not trying to change processes. We're not trying to change forms. What we're trying to do is to cognitively enhance civil servants working inside these processes. And that makes things much better. And also, since we're working in the core business, I mean, for 400 years, we developed the practice of knowing and judging how to use information. So it's an important part that the responsibility of how to use information, what kind of information that you can or are allowed to upload to an assistant, that responsibility is on the individual civil servant. And they're used to making those judgments because it's part of the normal practice of the government offices to work with sensitive information.
And just to close the topic on the company analyst, I thought it was a great example there. Can you just elaborate a bit more? How did you get started? What was the first initial phases of how you tried to use it? And how did you get value from it? If you just try to capture that in a nice way.
I did not make it. It was Karin Svensson that made it. She's actually the first data specialist in the government offices. We have one. But she's part of the department that is responsible for all these companies. So I couldn't tell you that story. I just know that the civil servant picked up this tool and built that assistant. She came back with no questions to us, I think.
But you're giving access then to Intric for public servant like her or civil servants like her, and they can then upload data and they can tune it and they can instruct it and then they can let other people use it? Or can you, if you just elaborate a bit more how it works?
Yes. So building an assistant, you have to handle all that data and upload it and prompt it, and choose language model and say how deterministic or creative that interaction should be, and then basically you're done. And then you can start to interact with it as your own personal assistant. You can then, and you're working in sort of a working space that you can invite other people into it so they can start using that assistant as well. You can also create a widget so you can make sort of a window to that assistant for everybody else to work with. We haven't gone that far yet, so we're still keeping it very personal in the sense of who is using whose assistant. But what we're trying to do now in pilot phase 2 is to come up with a secure policy of sharing those assistants, and a very important part of that is validating that assistant. So any other person that is going to use it, they need to know the level of precision that is coming out of the assistant, who owns the information, and who owns this assistant. So there's a lot of policy behind sharing assistants. It's kind of easy to build your own and take responsibility for the information and the administration of it. But once you start sharing it, you need to become more organizationally aware of what you need to do.
But the process, how does it work? So some person starts to build some kind of agent, and then they add some data to it and prompts to it, but they can share it somehow, right?
Yes, but we're restrictive with sharing as of now. What we've seen in the company analyst is that people within that department is using that, but they're not sharing that with any other. Now, that wouldn't make much sense because they're the only ones that is doing that kind of work.
But you have other processes who doesn't look like that.
Well, we have a lot of processes when it comes to analyzing government agencies. So we could take that assistant, turn it into an agency analyst, but that will be part 2.
And then you have more complication of how to share it. But
Yes.
let me see if I followed you here, because I think there's an underlying story that we want to help you to convey here. And now you there was a principle in here. Agents, whoever we build it, ultimately needs to have very, very strong ownership within the department or the core business which is made. So the whole idea that an IT department can build agents for you or manage it for you is not the way you are looking at it at all.
No.
I fully agree with your point. Henrik Nyberg, who was on the pod last week, said the same thing. But I think I'm not sure everybody's thinking hardcore like that, or it's like, oh, this is data and AI. Oh, we send it to the CIO department to fix it for us. And you are saying the complete opposite, in my opinion, in terms of ownership.
Yes, and the core principle of any sort of business operation within the public sector is responsibility principle. Someone needs to be pointed out to have the responsibility, as you say. So what we've done in structuring the project is to have AI pilots. They develop the assistant. Then it needs to be validated. And then you have an AI editor that actually takes care of it.
AI editor as in human that does it, or what do you mean? Okay.
So it
it's a
needs to
person,
be
it's
human. That needs to be part of his portfolio. So his boss needs to tell him that you manage these assistants. I sometimes use the metaphor of a stable. So you have these AI assistants that when comes nightfall, you put them into the stable and you provide them with new data and you mock out the old data and to make sure that they're fresh to go work.
You have the stable metaphor. Henrik Nyberg used the intern metaphor to explain the same thing. That, dude, if you have an intern, you need to coach them and you need to guide them and you need to tell them when they're doing right or wrong. And then you don't give the intern the hardest chore first. You let them grow into their role, but it's your job.
Yes. And I think here is something that we speak about a lot, that this is not something that the IT department can do or digitalization department, because what differentiates different assistants is the data more than the prompt. And you need to have a clear ownership of data.
Yeah.
And that needs to be core business.
And the logical, what's the role of digitization and what is the role of the owner or the one wanting the assistant? I think Henrik Nyberg makes it quite eloquent. I'm testing you. This was last week. You can look at the podcast from last week. The digitalization agency, they have, again, technology competence and competence on how to prompt and technically what you think about. And then you need to co-create with the owner who has the domain knowledge. So this guy can't do it if they don't know anything about how to technically how it works in the beginning. And these guys can't do it because they don't know the problem. Together, you can set it up and ultimately then the owner can operate.
Yes,
Is that a fair summary?
definitely. I was actually visiting Kungsbacka municipality to see what they were doing, and they have a nice metaphor, which they call the two-handed principle, and it's a picture of a steering wheel with two hands on it. So you have digital and you have core business, and they're driving this together.
That's a nice
and
one.
that's what
That's what I
about.
said. That's what I said exactly.
So walk me through the process a bit more. So for one, you have a large number of assistants now, potentially up to 30 or more. And then someone is trying it out, I guess, on real data or real use cases and real workflows that you're having. What happens if someone finds that this is actually working rather well? Do you have a way to scale it up, to share it with more people? Or what happens if someone finds out that this is actually a useful pilot?
That's what we're going to be working with now.
And this is part of pilot phase 2 in building that organization.
Okay.
So what we're setting up is the center of excellence.
Okay.
Since we're having AI pilots, where we call it Top Gun, of course, where we bring in the best of the best, and they can then take the best assistants and turn them into government office wide assistance. If you have general functionality that could be shared by others. And we will also have a capability council, which will then, and that will be core business sitting together in the room discussing on what organizational level should that AI editor work. Should it be on the single department, on a minister level, or government office wide? Because that will differ. And that will change over time. So we need to build an organization that already now sort of is capable of administering potentially hundreds of AI assistants in an orderly fashion with responsibility very clearly sort of as a target for the organization.
And once again, try to cook up this in PowerPoint without having done anything, or try to sort it, or try to start working, and then you see then this problem leads to this scaling problem. This scaling problem leads to this organizational problem. This organizational problem leads to this policy problem. I think it's impressive stuff. You're doing it the right way, I think.
So one thing is to build like more like basic agent, we call it that. You can simply put the data and the prompts there and you can find value. But in some cases, I guess it's not sufficient. And perhaps you need to do some development around it to have the data pipelines working, or some additional UI, or who knows what, or actually integrate it into some current system that you're having, so it doesn't have the normal kind of chatbot interface. Is that something you're doing as well, or are you mainly focusing on the like basic state chatbot interfaces right now?
We do have now, for one of our, as we call them, killer apps, we are going to look at more of a development project because it's something that's been done in one department successfully, but it's something that we see that will work just as good for all the departments. And that's just gathering huge masses of information. And we want to find a way to develop the whole approach of validating, because so the example I gave in terms of summarizing the 6,000 calls, so you have a situation where you've done the manual job, and then you compare it to AI, and you see that AI is good enough, but you still have the manual work to compare it to. When they do it next year, they probably won't have the manual work because they're only going to do it in AI. Like, how do we have the backbone of the validation process because it needs to transcend with new language models. We don't really know, how the new language models will compare to the old ones. So we need to find a framework of validating. So that's what we want to do now with one of our assistants, to bring in a development team and see how can we scale it up, and how can we find the validation process that will hold over time. And it's also in part of finding these kind of so we do have, I think at the moment, 4 or 5 different assistants that are all based on information from our intranet. It would be very easy to just build an assistant to search the intranet and problem solved. But by breaking them down, we get a better understanding from the people using the assistants. And that's kind of the PowerPoint approach. Like we would like, an AI assistant to be able to search all of the government's information. Like if I want to take a vacation, what form should I use then? Or I want to order a new computer, where do I turn? But by breaking them down, we get quicker tests, and we know that we're not, gaping for too much at once.
But also,
I have a small rabbit hole, so continue, and then I want
thinking about next step then, and the most simplistic agent, if you can even call that an agent, is just an LLM that you ask questions, and it can't really do anything more. It can't perhaps even reason properly, or it can't really take action or use tools in different ways. And then you have, the more advanced agent that are getting more and more autonomous and can reason for a number of steps and decides by itself now it's actually going to continue or stop doing something, and it's not controlled by some kind of manually written scaffolding around it, but actually it makes decisions by itself on what next steps to take. Is that something you're also getting into, or what are you thinking about that type of agents?
Maybe the best example is how Intric have integrated the databases of the Statistical Bureau.
Okay.
And also
SCB,
yes, SCB.
Yeah.
And also Collada, which is municipal economical data. And they're actually totally integrated into the platform, so you can chat with the data.
Oh, nice.
And when you chat with the assistant, it now produces a plan of progress. So you can see how it plans its research, and then you can change that plan. Otherwise, it goes off and dive into the database and comes back, and then start analyzing that, and then presents the analysis for you.
But let me. I was on exactly the same question as Anders, but let me frame it a little bit differently, because I really want to start almost like from a definition point of view. So, so you're clearly now built 30 assistants. And in a way now, in simplistic terms, how do we contrast an assistant from an agent or something that is agentic? And what you hear out there, and what I kind of subscribe to, is the simple view of, like, if you are having something that's sitting idle and reacting to your question and giving you back, this is great value, and you can sort of go through your flow, and you can question it, and you get the results. The next level, when we start talking about, is how do we give, or should we give, more and more agency to the system? So literally, it has you ask it questions, you don't prompt it all the way through, but it can actually go away and do things. And now we get a little bit more techie, because now you might need to incorporate tool use, and whatever it has done, what happens next in the workflow, or we need to send that data to this server or to this system, etc., etc. So have you had this? So question number one, with that framing, have you had the conversation on what is assistant versus agent, and what is your ambition level? This is sort of more strategic, and then what steps are you taking, towards more agentic, I guess?
Perhaps the most important part that is what we call assistant is cognitively enhancing people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you're not changing agency.
No.
So we're now working with assistants, and that is kind of within the framework of the government office, kind of easy, because then you have responsible civil servants that will take responsibility for what comes out of the assistant before they take it further in the process.
There's still the co-worker, the servant, civil servant. So the assistant sits behind the civil servant. It's not part of the flow, so to speak.
True. So you're enhancing a human agent. What we see now is that with the integration of the databases, you see the first traces of agency coming in. So far, it's perhaps more empowering the assistant in terms of, the assistant can also get out to a database and start doing things in the database, but you're not, in this case, transferring agency from the civil servant. And I think that's the most important distinction, especially within public processes where you have accountability. You need to make sure that you stay within the accountability process.
But you can still have the human having the overall responsibility, but then letting the assistant or agent do more tasks in a greater time scale or a greater set of tools than before, without losing control of the output, so to speak. Meaning it could search the web, or it could go to SCB database to do some things. Perhaps even start to change stuff, or to write, some documents, or to perhaps, upload some report somewhere. Who knows? So it could be to have, a set of different actions being taken, not just from a, let's call it a research point of view or from a knowledge management point of view, but actually changing some things. Is that something that you're also considering, or have some assistants starting to do?
Well, we're finding the breadcrumbs for that going forward, but I think we're reaching a point where we really need to get the governance in place to scale up. But we know where we will need to scale up, and we have an idea on where we must go to reach that kind of position. But it's so useful to start small and build upon it. And don't be greedy. If we can make our civil servants 20 or 30% more efficient,
of course,
then we won. I mean,
that's perfect.
But maybe assistant view is a very, very smart stepping stone. And because then those agency topics comes to the forefront, and then you can, within the agency of one civil servant, you can give more and more tool use behind the back. Still you're accountable.
Yep.
But you're straining together more and more tasks, right? And then when you understand how that works, we have a chance to have governance that's, okay, what's the governance now? Because now you as a civil servant, you actually, your role is to shift to observe, quality assurance within the role, and then et cetera, et cetera.
I think we need to move to the very famous example of Ulf Kristersson here, who he cognitively enhanced himself, right, by using AI, and got a lot of blame for that, right? Do you have some more insight into that, what really happened, and give some perhaps a background for people that haven't heard about this?
I don't really know. I was on vacation, but I'm happy. I'm happy that the leadership is using AI. Definitely.
I mean, as long as you keep it at that level, I mean, who can be blamed for being cognitively enhanced by an assistant? That should be something everyone is doing, right?
It was a very strange debate.
The debate was stupid.
And debate should be, you should be upset if he wasn't using AI.
Exactly, yes.
Of course, you need to ask questions about the responsible use of it, and knowing sort of the frameworks of it, and we don't know much about that, of course.
But it was so stupid, because it was obvious that the person, I think the person who initiated the debate and the people who jumped on it hurt themselves by their pure stupidity. There was an underlying very interesting debate. How should we use it, or how should we develop in this direction, and when should we use it and not use it? That's a very good debate. But if and or not, that's just...
But I think it highlights, so many people are immature in what AI can do and what probabilities are, right? And that's something, as you working as a change manager, have to face, I guess, regularly, right?
Yes, and we shouldn't be... we also need to listen to those people that is cautious about this new technology. So it's understandable in one way that this debate comes up. Yeah. One thing that we've been very conscious about in the project is that we single out and focus on early adopters. That's our change actors. That's our AI pilots. and we actively seek them out and draw them into the project because we believe that you cannot convince people by PowerPoints. You need to show in practice the kind of utility that comes out of using these tools. If you can show that in numbers or just in practice in front of people, you can win them over. We do workshops with civil servants, and it's really fun to see how they start off being a bit, perhaps not skeptical, but sort of wonder where this is going to go. And once you do a workshop and you let them work with the tool, you see how their eyes light up. And suddenly it stands clear to them that, oh, darn, I can use this in my everyday. And then they convert.
I need to try some stand-up comedy. PowerPoint will never light up eyes. Never.
Nope. But I think you brought up an interesting topic here. And for one, of course, you have Intric and we have a tech and you can build assistance. But then to get people to use it, we need some change management in place. And if we have the time, it would be fun to just think a bit more, from a non-technical point of view, how do you actually scale value in the government offices in Sweden to make them really use it and find value? You mentioned already part of it with the workshop, etc. But can you just describe a bit more? What's the process to really find value beyond the tech, so to speak?
Well, it's part of finding the right people that wants to drive this development. It's finding the AI pilots, and then supporting them and providing the platforms.
And how do you find them?
So far, it's been kind of easy. They're calling us.
Love that.
But we've spent a lot
Good
of
marketing.
time.
So that's the answer is good marketing.
And I can just give you a good example. We have a commission investigation that looks over the environmental process. It takes 15 years to get the environmental permit to do something. And the government is having a commission investigation to look this over. And they got 6,000 pages of investigation back, 300 pages of legislative proposals, and they had another 4,000 pages with 200 pages of legislative proposals that they were sending out to, I think, 250 remittances, that is other agencies and companies. For review. So they were expecting somewhere around 25,000 pages of information about these.
But this is stand-up comedy.
Mm-hmm. And they were 2 people working on this. Do you wonder if they called us? Yep.
Oh, really?
Could you help us? Cool. And then we tried to help.
How do they know about you then? You have to have some kind of, awareness building, so to speak.
Yeah. What's the marketing here? What's the branding? What's the evangelization that leads them to call you? This is part of the story.
Well, it's just feet on the ground. We're always saying yes to the meetings. If they want to know more, we'll show up. We'll tell them more. We'll listen. Listening is I'd say the key factor. So as soon as we hear something going on, we'll kick in the door and try to join the conversation and see if we can help. But yeah, we spent a lot of time just hanging out with the different departments and talking about AI and listening to the.
So you go around and give like presentations of that, or
yep.
Okay,
walking the corridors, and also just having the conversations wherever you can.
But how okay, this is obvious, but how to systemically organize it efficiently, so how have you made an agenda that sort of we want to have a town hall meetings, or we have people who are dedicated to call, as a sales organization, or how have you practically sorted it out? Because this is super important.
We had a range of workshops, prompt workshops. We have something we called innovation arenas, where we invited people to have a conversation about not tech, but change management. And within that framework, we had the history corner, where we tried to connect to Oxenstierna and the development of legitimate due process when it comes to having a good governance of the country. And that sort of it's a package of understanding that we're in the middle of developing how the country is governed, I think. And once people take that in, they really become interested in the subject. And then tech is one part of it. But more important is, how can I improve the job I'm put to do?
Right.
But here's another signpost. Here's another principle. You didn't lead with tech. You put the tech in some sort of context of what they're really all about and what the real mission is all about, which is easy to say, but do we do it all the time? I think, I mean, like, so if you think about instinctively or strategically, that's the principle.
I don't think we would be here if we would have led with tech. We would be talking about how do we do this agentic, how do we, push the tech delivery further. So we had at the beginning with the first pilots, that was kind of word of mouth. People found us and we tried to, okay, what do you want to use AI for? So when we had maybe, I think it was 30 or 40 civil servants that were interested, we put them in a room, and they came from different backgrounds and different departments, and then we just split the list in half. So Magnus, these pilots are yours, I'll take these, and then we gave some to the other guys, and give them a call once a week, listen to what they're doing. Yeah, exactly.
Footwork.
So instead of us spending time thinking about what can we deliver, how can we just listen to them, what they're doing, and what do they want. So everybody got a few pilots per person.
But that's another principle. We cannot be completely preoccupied with our own agenda, so we don't have time to do the legwork or footwork. We need to have slack in order to listen and to sell, or to be there. That is, because you know how it is. We are all inundated with work, and you're supposed to work with your digitalization, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I don't have time to meet the customer. I'm joking, but not really.
I think perhaps another, as you say, I think listening is key. And government is funny, because we fly yaws in Libya with our right hand, and we hand out student loan with our left hand, right? So government is very broad business. And if you listen in, most civil servants are doing very different things. So they sit with very different problems. It's very difficult to cluster them up and say, do this, and do that. No, everybody has their own particular problems that you need to listen into and make sure that their problem is solved. Now, luckily, AI assistance is a very agile tool it's possible to
comprehend more.
Yes, to solve their problems.
Awesome. Okay, so what happens if someone reaches out to you? What's the next step? How do you get them on board, so to speak, so they can start working with some pilot?
Well, now we say, let us get back to you when we're ready to bring on more people. But basically, we asked, what do you want to use it for? Like, what's your goal? What do you think you can use it for? And what do you think the result will be?
Do you have to do some onboarding or show them how it works, or right? Or
it's not that easy. So far, yet again, we're targeting early adopters, and we want to make it a bit difficult to become an AI pilot. Okay. So you want to qualify to that. So we have
readiness to commit.
Yes. And so what we're setting up now in pilot phase 2 is a nomination process. That means that the different heads of units will be able to nominate people, which will then hopefully be early adopters. And then those nominations is poured down to us, where we can actually select what we believe will be the best AI pilots, looking at their sort of qualifications and also their business cases that they want to try out.
Feasibility, simply.
Sorry?
Also their readiness and the feasibility.
Yes. And also make sure that we don't double work or overlap and too much. So we're on the proper level of what we want to develop when it comes to functionality. And then we deliver the licenses and then onboard them and make sure that they have whatever they want to know and put them into user groups.
Interesting that you gamify, I guess, this a bit by simply having people nominating other people and in that way turning it into a competition, I guess, in some way, right?
Should be somewhat competitive.
But I'm hearing between the lines also that there's an emergent portfolio model around this. And so we have limited funds, 300 in IT, and even fewer working with agentic or assistance. So you need to sort out where to allocate your prioritizations. And so the nomination process is one part here, readiness and feasibility. How else would you describe your sort of portfolio view on how you sort of prioritize and act on these things?
Yes, and what we do is to nominate people sort of way out in the business processes, but we're also looking at the more strategic processes, the government office-wide processes, and that's the ones that we take to the Top Gun, the center of excellence, and where we can work with those. So those, then we discuss with the expeditionschefer,
the head of the departments,
head of ministries, or administrative heads of ministries, perhaps. And then we have a conversation with them of which processes that we should prioritize within that function.
And you have to describe a bit, what is really the Top Gun? What is really the center of excellence? What does it mean if you get nominated and elected to that?
That you can participate in solving the most difficult problems that we face.
So you help them out in that, and then, yes.
Yes, and it's not in place so far.
Okay.
It's something that we're...
but you're thinking carefully now, and I think this is very smart, of some sort of two-tier approach. We are nominating people or nominating cases, and then we look at which is sort of opportunistic, or basically this is the entry point or the inbox, so we can get the best cases for everyone. And then you strategically and surgically, proactively think from a top-down perspective, what are the broader impact cases? And probably also with the broader impact cases, it will require more DevOps. It will require more coding and stuff like that around it to make it work.
Yes.
And so you have a portfolio strategy with a two-prong strategy where you have an inbox for the greater masses, capture them all, and you have a strategic proactive view with Top Gun. I love that McKinsey PowerPoint.
Now you destroyed it with the McKinsey part, but okay.
I was just putting it into consultant jargon.
It's time for AI News, brought to you by AIAW Podcast.
Yes, so we normally take a small break in the middle of the podcast to speak about something else, and then speak a bit about the latest and greatest AI news that we heard about in recent couple of weeks. And then just go around the table and see if we have something that we'd like to share. Perhaps we start with you, Peter. Do you have something that you heard about recently in terms of AI news?
Oh, no, not really. I've been so bad with my ears to the ground on what's happening. But I did see a real cool from a gaming point of view when they were using the new Unreal Engine together with AI, and I think there's going to be some cool stuff happening in gaming.
For sure, and with the Sora 2 and everything that recently came out, the way they can create videos, and then I'm sure it will come to games and the Unreal Engine as well, and just have perhaps, real-time video generation, perhaps. That would be amazing, right? Have you seen any of the videos from Sora 2?
No, not recently, no.
It's amazingly good. Magnus, do you have anything specific that you heard about?
I actually stumbled across some interesting news. I think it was Samsung, of all companies, that introduced a new language model that was kind of tiny.
Yeah, I heard about that.
But it sort of crushed all the big ones. And that was, well, not crushed, but it was competitive.
Yes.
And from what I gather, and this is how I think about it, is they came up with a novel cognitive architecture that sort of complemented or empowered that little language model into something greater, because it's iterated the question and answer back and forth, and made that little model work really hard to somehow look like a really big model. And that's really interesting because it questions this big is beautiful paradigm that everybody's running after.
And there were some papers released, if I knock on that, and I'm really speaking out of my depth here. So we are talking about different architectures. We're talking from the LLM architecture, and then we're thinking about, actually we can get further with SLM, small language models. Right. And now I saw papers on new reinforcement learning oriented small models, so TRM. I can't even remember what they were called. Do you know what I'm talking about, Anders?
Well, if there's something one, yes, of course. And
let's go there a little bit then.
No, but I think, that was a bit about reasoning, and for something we know AI. I think a nice way to describe this is really that we know AI is good at some things, but really bad at other things. One thing is really good with what you are using it for is, I would call, knowledge management, meaning taking a large bit of text or images or data in some way and just being able to understand what it has and answer questions about it. What it's worse is reasoning, and that's something that human actually do much better. So by taking it in your approach and putting human in the center, lets human do what they do best, which is the proper reasoning and putting it in a context that really makes sense, and then let AI do what it's good for. Then you find the best of the two. What Samsung did here is trying to address the reasoning part a bit. And there is a benchmark called AIAW by François Choulet, and he tries to find clear benchmarks where AI of today really fails. But it's super easy for humans. So what this AIAW benchmark really tries to do is see that this is super easy for humans, but super hard for AI. So that's the case. ChatGPT has no chance to solve these, but this kind of tiny model that they had, I'm not sure exactly the name, is some kind of, some tiny recursion model or something, I think it was called. And by having this super small 7 million parameters, it's not 7 billion, nor a trillion. I mean, the biggest one that we have today is trillions of parameters in it. It's a huge, huge number. Like a couple of billions is a small model.
Yeah.
Now we're speaking 7 millions. It's like not the thousands, it's a million part of the biggest model that we have. It's an insanely small model. You can run it on
It's about running on the edge. This is all about
but this is much more than that. You can run billions of parameters on a phone. This is 7 million. It's really small, but it's doing something else, which is it's much more iterative. It's recursive, and then it's focusing on the reasoning part. So apparently it does much better than the big one for this specific task. It would be horrible in knowledge-intensive tasks, but this kind of reasoning tasks, it's actually surprisingly good at.
And tiny recursive model, is that TRM then?
Yeah, I guess so.
Because I heard TRM, but I couldn't for my life remember what it was.
I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's
I'm not sure either. Yeah. But the what I draw out of this, that I think sort of pay attention to the trajectory, is that the world is a combination of things.
Yes.
It's a combination of LLMs for what they're good at, with SLMs what they're good at, and now TRMs or something else. So we are talking ultimately, as this grows, and to some degree when you're using a platform, this is behind the scenes for you. It's AI compound systems. We are combining, contextualized data, guardrails, different types of AI techniques to solve different task lengths or different complexity of tasks. And I think that's it. For me, this is very important that more people understand that, or have a humbleness for this, that it's not one size fits all. It's not LLM for all.
But I think it's also very important that people understand AI is bad at many things that humans are really good at.
Yes.
People are fooled, I think, to a large extent, just because they're so great and so much better than humans in knowledge tasks, that they believe it's really good in everything. And that's certainly not the case. And you could never replace a human today with the best of AI models that we have out there, because they're only good, I would say.
And this is so deceptive. This is so deceptive. Because it's sometimes from the outside really hard to understand the difference. Was this did the AI solve this because it has a vast amount of knowledge, or did it actually reason towards the goal? So it's if you have all the answers in your head of all the different tests that's been done in the past, that's knowledge. That's not reasoning.
And then you come down to the philosophical question: what is reasoning? What is intelligence?
Do you have a preferred definition?
Yeah.
No, but it strikes me when I see this. It seems like a bigger part of intelligence, of what we call intelligence, seems to reside in language rather than in the brains, since it seems like we can export it into a language model. So, and then if you put reasoning into that, also it becomes, and then you hear me as the philosopher, it really becomes interesting to trying to understand what intelligence is.
Because sometimes I think we can philosophize around what is intelligence, how much is knowledge, how much is reasoning, how much is knowledge acquisition rate, stuff like this. But then you can go another route, and then that is actually to start thinking and framing it from what would be considered intelligent behavior in this context. So as to make it more pragmatic, right? And intelligent behavior typically has to do with something doing it smarter, better, more efficient, co-adaptive in the context of its environment, whatever that is. So something that doesn't work within its environment in a logical, in a reasonable way is not behaving intelligently. So, and I can take that to the school world.
I would disagree with you there, Henrik, but let's not go into that rabbit hole and define intelligence.
I'm not trying to define intelligence. I think it's very difficult. Yeah. But I'm trying to understand that. I'm trying to point to, why don't we talk about intelligent behavior and reason about what would be intelligent behavior as a civil servant in this particular use case, and then you can get quite far.
Right, let's get back to your news. I think it's another rabbit hole here. I would be happy to go there, but I think perhaps in the end, when we go more philosophical, I will be happy to discuss what intelligence, reasoning, knowledge management, etc. is. But do you have any news, Henrik?
No, I mean, so I'm gonna do the news angle from, what of all the AI news reached the TV4-soffan this week. And Paulina, who's been on the pod, she was, she's there sometimes to talk about different things. And of course now Sora 2. And I mean, the news angle is sort of fake news is one news angle. And then the other angle is Hollywood, the CCAA or whatever it's called. And sort of the implications of what, of how we do video and all that. And so there's the Sora news, we talked about this technically. 2-3 weeks ago, I guess, but already now, within 2-3 weeks, it has big ripples in terms of what does it mean? How Sam Altman let it completely free, and then he needed to poodle on that and sort of rein it back a bit. It's available in the app in US right now, but not in Europe. I mean, so I just wanted to point that out. I mean, stuff is happening, but not really techie news or not specific. But it was just interesting that it makes ripples all the way out in normal media.
I think a related topic to that is that apparently Hollywood, in movie production and whatnot, is making use of AI much more than they are saying. Mm-hmm. It has a really bad rap because a lot of actors and screenplay writers, etc., is really angry with AI and it's afraid about taking their job. But apparently under the
bonnet, it's been going on.
They've been using that for a lot of movie productions for a long time, but not really speaking about it because they're a bit afraid about the consequences and kind of interesting.
Anyway, so that was sort of the bigger media angle today.
Yeah.
Any tech news or any things you want to highlight?
Tech news. Everyone should have a contrasting one. Yes. So, one of the things that AI actually also does really, really well is AI for coding, software engineering, and especially Cursor. I'm using it a lot myself, and the way it actually adds functionality on top of the LLM. One thing is simply what the what the LLM can do. But if you, as Cursor does, the real USP, so to speak, the value adding thing that Cursor adds is the logic around it and the way it makes use of the LLM. And that's super hard to copy. And they spent like millions, and if not billions of dollars in just coming up the proper scaffolding, as they call it, to do it. And that makes Cursor better than any other software development IDE in my view. So they just this week added a new functionality called the plan mode. So they had one for a while called the agent mode, and before that they had basically autocomplete. Agent mode is simply doing a lot of things, taking action and deciding on what to do by itself without you having to approve it. And it can change files and run, take actions and whatnot. But now they have a plan mode. And that basically can take a longer time to just come up with a big change and do the plan for it and go through the big code base in a way that it wasn't possible to do before. And I tried it out, and it's really impressive. And AI for coding, I think, is a perfect metaphor and like a window to the future of what AI will be able to do for more or less any kind of business process or workflow that we have today. And in coding, you can see it now. And I'm just so eager to see when this comes out for doing company analysis or for doing so many more things. If you can have all the functionality that already exists today for coding everywhere, it will be such a game changer.
Yeah, and the angle here is like within the coding space, there are also signposts in relation to the characteristics of the type of process and workflows, and how you can with code see, does it execute, does it compile or not, and you get a very clear false or negative, or does it work or not. So, but it also tells us a lot about which processes can we take the furthest next, and which processes is further and further down, like with the whole stack and technology and how we work. It needs to be a little bit more sophisticated because it becomes more and more human-like.
Goran, did you have a news you want to share?
No, but what about, so I saw Goran put up Claude HiQ. Is that what we're talking about here? Or is that something else?
I think he mentioned the Vibe Analytics part, and that's actually a favorite topic of mine as well. Oh, okay, this is that one.
But for me, this is funny because now Vibe Analytics, this is ThoughtSpot 2015.
Yeah.
They are confusing Vibe analysis with Vibe coding, which is completely different.
Yes and no, I would say.
Why?
Yes, so actually it's something we've been doing at work quite a lot, and it's really impressive how AI for analytics have improved insanely in just recent months.
True, but is it Vibe?
Yes.
How?
So Vibe is a term that's a bit controversial because a lot of people think it's a bad thing to do Vibe coding. I do not necessarily, but I can see the point. And I think a term like agentic coding is probably better, and so would agentic analytics be a better term than Vibe coding.
Thank you.
So, but I think the underlying meaning of it is very similar. It's just that people have a bad connotation to Vibe. Anyway, what you can do, for example, in Snowflake these days. So Snowflake is really good in analytics, and they added a new functionality called Snowflake Intelligence, basically building agents. So you can drag and drop and build agents in Snowflake. And what that means is you put in the data similar to how you build the assistants. Very, very similar.
Right.
You just say that here is the tables, the data models that you want to use, and you give that to an agent in Snowflake. You give it some instructions saying this is how you should answer these kind of questions and what you build a semantic view, as it's called. And then you let people talk to it. So Vibe, in the sense of talking to the AI, is very similar. So you then can ask a model like, why has the sales gone down for product Internet Light in Denmark in the recent months? And then it figures out, I should look at, of all the thousands of data models we have, these are the one I should look at. Then it writes the SQL scripts or code necessary to extract and transform the data. Then it takes action in building some visualization and reasons about, what is the real reason the sales went down? And it comes back with a concrete answer saying, the reason that the sales went down in Denmark in these months is because we had a lot of incidents and the competitor came out with a lower price point, and this is the answer. This works surprisingly well today. It didn't work. We tried it out like half a year ago. It was horrible. Today, it works much, much better. This is moving so fast. And this is a perfect example of something moving from vibe coding or agentic coding, agent mode coding, into another process, meaning analytics. So now we're starting to see agentic analytics being actually or starting to work. Not as well as coding, but surprisingly well.
But it's interesting, right?
And that will just continue for one workflow after the other in coming years.
Decision intelligence.
Yes.
So isn't that the same?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Decision intelligence that we spoke about.
You use the business insights, yes. So in that sense, it
This is
helps
business
you.
insight as well.
Yeah. It helps with the decision making for the business purpose. But I think the point is simply to find insights from data in some sense, right?
And it's interesting now because, I mean, like on the one hand side, you have the agent that works on company data on more sort of analyst, market intelligence perspective. And on the other side of it, you have coding, cursor. And here all of a sudden now we have business intelligence or more data wrangling, which if you think about it, it's a combination of understanding this part, but it's also a combination of coding in SQL or, be able to extract it. So it makes sense, right? And this is not rocket science or science fiction. It's simply a matter of the product becoming a little bit better and we becoming better at understanding and framing the problem correctly. And if you're going to frame a BI problem, you kind of need to know a little bit more about BI, right? It's that simple. Going back to your principle, whoever domain owner is needs to own their own agent in relation to understanding the work they would give to an intern.
Yep.
It's that simple.
Yep.
It's a lot of challenges though.
Yeah.
And it's not as simple, I think, as that. But speaking about not as simple and the challenges, it would be awesome to hear what are your experiences in building these 30 plus agents or assistants, assistants is probably a better term. What has been the main challenges for you in finding value from them?
Well, one thing that we did during the spring was we wanted to go on vacation where we gathered all the pilots and their assistants, and they would tell each other what has worked and not. But it was so interesting to listen to, so we actually invited the whole government and booked the big aula. And,
Like thousands of people?
No, but a couple of hundred at least, yeah. So it was really cool, and we invited some guys that have been on the podcast here, Magnus and Johan Falk. So some of the pilots, they got 5 minutes each and said what they had done. And one of the feedbacks that was so cool was they said that what you guys have done here is very believable, because we didn't, just put the ones that worked. We took the ones that didn't work as well.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Yeah, because you get some credibility then,
Yes.
because everything's not sunshine and rainbows. And I think that has been really good for us as well. And also in form of transparency towards all the other ones. So we want to, every time we get something that works, we want to share it with all the other pilots. And also when we get something that doesn't work, we want to share it as well. So the kind of transparency we have going on, that the prompts and the kind of system prompts that the guys are building, we upload it to a place where it's shareable with everyone else.
Okay. So you can learn from each other in that way.
Yeah.
Okay, but what were, now you're still speaking about the success stories here, I believe, but what would you say the challenges were? Some surprises that you found out along the way? That's
Perhaps the legal uncertainty around information management.
yeah.
That's cool.
And it's not a super easy environment to navigate it when you're working in the public sector. And what we are discovering is that some of the documentation, the logs, the system prompts could become a public document. And also the way that you need to become more granular or more professional in your information management skills to be able to do what you want to do. And that, even though you have that among the civil servants, because we handle these things every day, is that then you have to level up that knowledge for everyone to use the assistance and the information management on that professional level. I think that was perhaps the biggest challenge, and the way that we try to solve that is everybody learning from each other, because that's the only way you can learn.
One challenge here is the actual learning curve, the knock-on effects. So when we start going in this way, we want to use a system, it's great. But all of a sudden, you need to level up on information and data governance, or information and data encoding accuracy and all that, because it's really now, there's no room for sort of a human to wing it. So I would argue, when these are blind spots that we have lived with for years that we don't really think about, that now becomes transparent, and we need to now, we shouldn't hide them, or we should be very vigilant to spot them as soon as possible, and then what are the mitigations and how do we make this into process or workflow now? So your workflow as a civil servant actually now entails information management to a higher degree, more explicitly.
Yes.
The difference with doing it this way is that it's concrete. In what way do you need to, you need to do data governance? Yeah, what do you mean, dude? Now it's in relation to your agent, you need to give him this information in this way, otherwise it won't work.
Yes. So you need to sharpen that skill set
all the time.
And what you also notice, of course, is that Minister of Culture do things different than Minister of Finance. They do things different Minister than Defense. So it's not you can't find one answer. Everybody needs to sharpen their skills within their environment to find their own answers.
I think the legal uncertainty is an interesting topic as well. And an argument, let me just try this argument on you. I don't believe it myself, so don't think that I believe this is the correct way to say it. But if you were to use a digital assistant to go through company data that may or may not contain personal information, either you do it manually and you read through the thousands of pages of documentation that you mentioned, or you use an AI that you query about the information. Should the legal requirements be different in the two use cases, as you see it?
Oh, well, definitely. I mean, if you do it by hand on pen and paper, it's not stored digitally. Yeah.
What if it is in a PDF that you read through manually?
Probably not. I mean, depending on where you store it and how you use it, I think there's a good chance for us to use pretty sensitive information in AI, just as long as we have the right storage, the right delivery, be it on-prem or be it
Yeah.
It sort of boils down to accountability to the one that handles the information. If you have full control on the information, as you have when you have it as a PDF or a paper, you have full accountability of using that information. Once you start spreading that in different environments, it becomes trickier.
Yeah, it's also the point, GDPR has special rules about, if you have automated decision making, then it's the additional requirements, etc. But I think in your case, you are always having the human in the loop, so to speak. You're always having the human in the end that is accountable for everything. So it's not automated decision making at all in your case, right? That should ease up things.
Yes.
Hopefully.
It's not scary though with automated decision making. I mean, the tax agency are doing 100 millions of decisions per year, and 95 millions of those are automated. So we can do it, and we will definitely do it in the government as well.
And I think that's a very important point. And I think, Skatteverket or the tax authority is a good role model in that sense. And if you do the proper compliance work and do the proper documentation and risk analysis that you should do according to the law, then you can do automated decision making. It's not forbidden anyway. It's just that you have to do the proper, compliance work, right?
And I think we talked about this quite a bit on the pod. And I, for myself, is a very strong proponent of compliance or risk management by design. So you need to ultimately, and I think that's ultimately what Skatteverket has been forced to do, is to basically build a DevOps view, build a software development lifecycle or a use case lifecycle where we, as early as possible, understand the risks, understand the compliance work, and actually build that into fundamental definition of our requirements of whatever we are building. And the problem becomes when we are trying to sort this out as an afterthought and bolt that on top afterwards. So we haven't done the work. I don't think that scales or can work. So I think the more knowledgeable we are on those things and get it into our fundamental process from ideation, and we fail fast. This is not a good idea. We shouldn't do it. I think it's easy, as you say, but it's more work, of course.
Yeah, and we knew going into this we would have a lot of discussions in terms of information security, in terms of GDPR, but we're stumbling upon new challenges that. So GPT-5 was working slowly a couple of weeks ago. So then we sent out an email. GPT-5 is working slowly, changed to another model. And most of them changed to Claude 4 Opus. And when the invoice comes, so Claude 4 Opus is,
10x. So.
Exactly. And we didn't have, the slightest idea that was going to happen. Now it happened. Okay, new challenge. We got to work with this. And that's something that's pretty interesting, having those discussions. I mean, should we go out now and tell the civil servants, don't say hi to the chatbot, don't say thank you, because that's going to, render a lot of tokens.
Why do you use Opus? Jesus Christ. Okay, another topic, but cool. You get surprises, though.
No, but
an economical one, that's interesting to handle. That.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, like, so maybe for the listener, who's anyone interested, or even other agencies, I mean, like, so to understand the 360 view of challenges or questions, step number one, you need to start in order to uncover that they even exist, right? And now we see here now, okay, finances, total cost of ownership or cost of running it. It matters how you build it. It matters which models you use. What? Okay, and what did you learn? What mitigative efforts can you put into this now, like moving forward?
Well, it adds to the list of things we have to get in place before we can go into production, and we got to figure out, okay, how are we gonna invoice it? Handle it internally. What kind of
do you take it yourself in your department right now? Or?
Now we're doing it, yeah, okay. Because we're testing. So it's part of we cover the cost for the test, but it's not something that we'll be doing moving forward. And we also noticed that a kind of way that we think we want to deliver it is, okay, we'll have some form standard, small model with great prestanda as the kind of default one. But for those that want a heavy workload, okay, you can switch to that model. But it's gonna, if you want to take the cost, that's fine.
This is another principle we can draw out here. So when you go from testing or piloting or experimenting, you can have a central budget. Maybe it's the smartest way to remove those hurdles. But as it scales, even if this is internal and you're a fairly small IT department, you still kind of need to have a product-centric understanding and on treating this as okay, how am I going to go with this so it becomes more of a self-service, so we don't need to be there all the time? How are we going to cost this out? How are we going to price this out? Or internally we will call it cost allocation keys, but it's nothing else than pricing and service management. So you get to the same, even if you're not the software vendor, you kind of need to know fundamental, or you're getting dragged into fundamentals. Would that be fair summary?
Probably, but I think we'll notice it as we go along. I mean, so we were looking at how can we use Gen AI to scrape websites for kind of working with some sort of open data, and looked at the development project for that. And then a few weeks later, this is standard in all the deliveries from the language models.
That's also interesting.
So I think that we're always there thinking, okay, let's start a development project. Let's hire some really good coders that can help us. And then the market just delivers. And that's so, because listening to you guys when you were talking about what's happening in the scene, a couple of years ago, all these releases, they were, at big conventions. This is, going to be released and we're going to wait 3 months. Now, I mean, we are delivering without the super tech employees in the office. I mean, we are delivering the latest technology with just a click of a button. When, Claude 4 or 5 is released, we have it the day after.
It's a different game, because once again then, okay, so we need to think differently. It's you need to have the product mindset, but at the same time you also need to have another mechanism that keeps the eye on the or the ear on the rälsen to understand, let's not build this internally because it's going to come with the next release.
But I think that's a dangerous mindset to have as well. I think, we should, of course, understand that AI will improve in functionality in many ways, but we need to still develop things that is specific for our workflows, and that will never come specific in a general model. So to understand what you need to build yourself versus what will come in general solutions, I think is one of the key things that we need to figure out. And I think we also, of course, we know AI works with some things today, but it will work with other things tomorrow. And we need to have some understanding of what will it actually be able to do tomorrow and start preparing for that today.
But you didn't contradict me. You sharpened the argument. And the argument is to be super smart on what is the trajectory of this fast-moving inventions and what are fundamental slow-moving dimensions worth investing in. Like data contextualization, whatever is your core business, they won't fix. You can go nuts developing here, but as you said, techniques or stuff that is sort of that is very close to the LLM, probably going to be solved. So I think you're right. We should not stop developing, but at the same time, we should not try to do what OpenAI is going to do next month.
I think what Sam Altman said is very true. It's never been a time when it's better to build a startup than now. And I think also the same can be said for enterprises, meaning there has never been a time where it's bigger possibilities and opportunities for innovation than right now. Meaning now it's a perfect time to start building. Now it's a perfect time to actually start to improve the efficiency, quality, and transform processes and people. So I think, actually the opposite. I think, now is the perfect time to really get started.
I didn't say the opposite. I say the same. I just say be smart on where you put it.
Good.
Let's leave it.
Yeah. Cool. Look, the time is flying away. Looking a bit ahead, perhaps. You have come a long way. You moved into phase 2, it sounds. Can you just elaborate a bit more? What are the next steps for the government offices in Sweden to continue to scale value from the assistants and agents of the future?
So maybe the pilot phase 2 was very much focused on the technical platform and whether we got utility and in the line, and we found it did. We got some good numbers on the efficiency and also the mental relief, or we didn't find any cognitive distortion. We found a good balance of thinking versus allocating thinking to that assistant. So we thought this was a good tool. Now what we need to do is to build the framework around it, and also scale it. So far in the pilot phase 1, we had fairly small group of people working with it. Now we need to make sure that each ministry has their own development group. We need to build that center of excellence. We need to work constantly with the different friction areas that comes up. On what level should we put the functionality, and have the change manager within each ministry coordinating what happens there and between the ministries. So there's a lot of new things that we need to build and learn from. So that's the next step.
Is Regeringskansliet connected with the AIAW? Are you supporting here? Because I saw Skatteverket is there and a couple of others, like the Försäkringskassan. I talked to Danne at Don Nordell. And I'm just curious of how that works, or because we have
We could be.
you could be, but
I guess so, and I think maybe that Top Gun Center of Excellence that we're thinking of, that could be a partner.
Yeah.
As we could suddenly probably we would like to, but we don't know how that looks like yet.
no, it could, because without going bananas in imagination, AIAW Podcast is trying to figure out how can we improve in the public sector around use of AI. And maybe they have many different facets of what that means in terms of data and big data. But some of that is sort of a little bit old school. And here, maybe there are pockets here which is sort of spot on what you guys are working on that should be what AIAW Podcast can help with. I don't know. What do you think?
I think the old school is going to have a really good place here because they, both Försäkringskassan and Skatteverket, they are superb at information management and building robust, the big, and also in terms of sovereignty, they're really good at building data with continuity. So we're super happy. I mean, we have the public cloud services that are easy for us to use. We have the Swedish suppliers, the Nordic suppliers, the European, and now we have state suppliers as well. So we can, we can choose.
No, but my angle here is a little bit like, there are two different value propositions that marry up really well. So they are working on sort of the thing that scales big, blah, 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 sharing data across different organizations and all that, which is a really, really important fundament. And that's quite heavy to make that work across many different ministries or something like this. The problem with that is that it's not as easy for the civil servant to wrap their head around what am I going to use it for, am I going to use it, and the distance between using those sort of infrastructures towards what the municipality can do is quite large. If I flip it and let's think about what is the killer app that is closer to the civil servant, that then of course needs to connect to an infrastructure tissue in some ways, then you have a quite much interesting story. Here is the story that reaches the civil servant, public, whatever, and here's the fundamental infrastructure that we need underneath it to govern and do this well. Together it's a pretty cool story. Both of those stories is lacking in one part if you want to scale it up.
But you can also see sort of a layer of startups and other companies coming in and working that space in between.
Yes, of course.
Delivering that service layer, or what we will see come out of it. So there will be an interesting dynamic coming out of that tool shop.
It's just a matter of having the know-how of the different layers. And maybe you have strong focus here, but we have a blind spot here. You have done work here, and that adds clarity what that is all about. And then it helps us fill whatever blind spots we have.
Yes. And I think perhaps the most important part of that is get going.
Yeah, get going.
And then start experimenting.
And I think you should be really proud because I think you are a perfect example of how a lot of more organizations and authorities should be doing. Put it out there, start experimenting, see what works, and fail quickly if something doesn't work. So I'm very glad to hear that you are doing that. Congrats on that.
Thanks.
What do you think potentially will have the biggest, more transformative impact in the government offices in the future? What kind of digital assistants or agents do you personally believe this will have a big impact? Do you have any favorites?
Transcribing is one of my favorites because we have so many meetings and
people are writing notes a lot.
Exactly, and when you're writing notes, you're not paying attention, and you want to pay attention, be part of the conversation. So I think transcribing is going to be really big. Also, taking a photo of your notes on a paper and just send them in and transcribe them, that would be really cool. I think and I think in terms of products, that will probably be, one that we will deliver, but it will change and evolve and so, but that will probably be a standard product
for everyone.
Makes total sense.
Yeah. Cool. Do you have any favorites?
Tying back to, I guess, what you said early on, one experience that we have is that if you give the assistant too much of a mouthful of work, it will become sketchy. So what you need to learn is how to divide that process that you're working with into edible pieces.
Right.
And you can build one assistant per piece, right? But then you need to connect them also.
Yeah.
And then if you can find the language or protocol for tying those up, then the civil servant can back off a bit and then start managing that as a knowledge-driven process. And if you get to that, then it's the important part is also that if you build it as one big chunk, you lose transparency and you lose accountability. You need to have between these process steps accountability and transparency. And then that could be the part of the civil servant. You don't need Word as your primary work instrument. That could be produced somewhere else, but you need to have an eye on it to make sure that it's properly produced.
I 100% agree with this vision. I mean, like, so all the agentic AI and all that, it builds a hive mind. It doesn't, it's not a big monolith. The big monolith for the intransparency and for the actual understanding of what is happening, and from the complications of trying to build that, all the reasons why not go that route, but rather go small and then understanding orchestration. But orchestration becomes a heavy topic here. Then that becomes interesting as well.
It seems like all the major AI lab providers are building some kind of these kind of graphical UIs where you connect agents to each other in a nice workflow. So it certainly seems to be the future in some way, how you can do that.
But if we look at the implications, what is going to be the main difference in being or acting or, you know, succeeding as a civil servant if we follow this trajectory? You know, what's the implication of work? What is the implication for the people, for the humans, and the leader, and the leaders, and the process?
The way I tend to talk about it in our historical corner is that we have a long heritage of high independence and integrity as advisors to the government. And that's the values we need to keep, bringing that into the age of AI. That doesn't need to be, I have to really fast typing in Word. No, I need to make sure that the government gets the best knowledge-infused decisions to make. So in terms of having a high level of cognitive maturity and able to judge whether the products that comes out of these machines or assistants or agents, that will be still the key competence that will define civil service.
We talked about this actually on the last pod. I'm going to test a theory now, that it's surprising to see that some super senior coders, they completely excel and can go do so much with Cursor and with all these tools, and others has not really succeeded as well. And then we came up with a theory that actually what happens now is that even if you're the best coder, super senior, but you never led other people, you're not really good at leading, communicating, sending or giving instruction. So the whole topic of communication, leadership, clarity becomes an essential stepping stone here. And I think that goes for any job. You need to be able to lead and delegate to your assistants, especially if you have hundreds of them.
And I guess if you take that to the AI assistant agentic world, you need to be able to assess what kind of cognitive capability you can transfer to an assistant or agent, and what you need to keep in your own head.
This is leadership also. How should I delegate? What should I delegate?
Yes, I guess so.
Are people in the government offices afraid of AI or excited about AI?
As always, they're a bit like, what's this? But once they get their hands on it, they become curious and they really get excited. I haven't seen any other reaction to it.
No one that's afraid that it will take their job or something.
Of course, they ask tricky questions about it, not about taking their jobs. I usually describe the government offices that you have some 800% pressure of what you need to deliver. And with hardworking civil servants, you deliver 120%. So if you get AI in there, maybe we can deliver 240%. Perfect. We still got
800.
The demand is huge.
The mountain is huge. And
Yes.
if everybody could understand that in the whole public sector and the shortage of staff or nurses or anything like this, it's the same everywhere.
It is, but this is an important tool in order to increase the efficiency and productivity,
And
but
quality.
also the
And
cognitive
qual-
height
Yeah.
of what is delivered.
I fully agree.
But are you a bit annoyed, as I am sometimes, that media portray AI as something else?
Of course. and actually, we tried to switch when we talked less about AI than language models, because language model is more concrete. It doesn't
Right.
sound magic. It's more, oh, this is a new tool I can work with.
Maybe that's also an interesting topic to start decomposing stuff and not using the word that doesn't mean anything anymore. Like AI, what does it mean today, right? And we have many examples of that where we actually are using lingo that blurs rather than sharpens.
Cool. Yes, so we're moving towards the end here, and we are getting more and more philosophical. And I would know we have a philosopher here as well. So perhaps we can start to just consider that. What is the implication and ramifications into our society when other parts of or the society starts to do what the government office is doing and actually employing agents at scale? Will that be positive, or what do you think will happen at society if we were to do more of your type of
Just a
AI
massive
empowerment?
scale everywhere.
Well, as long as we can take care of it, because that's what we have to do. We need to know and learn. I don't think we're going to be in a good place if we send out something and we get back a response that's made completely with AI and we use AI to decompose it. I mean, that's probably just a waste of time. So
That's the meme, right? Like someone is prompting, someone is 3 bullet points. Can you make an essay out of this? Sending the essay, and someone is, it's an essay. Can you make 3 bullet points out of this on the other side?
Yeah,
That's the joke, right?
exactly. But I think it's and you said it before, Anders. This is different than other deliveries in the past. I mean, everyone is using it. Our moms, our families and friends, everyone is using it, and everyone is actually getting pretty good at it pretty fast. Even people that I never would have thought would use AI is using it, and they're using it for at above average level.
But it seems some organizations are not using it. I agree very much what you were saying, but I know just this week, we had to collaborate with a university. I won't say the name because I'm going to be harsh, but they are forbidding the use of AI in the university and saying that that's really hurting education or whatnot. Can you see that happening, or what do you think about organization having this kind of mindset?
I think that they're definitely using it.
Yes.
They forbade it,
Yes.
and they are not delivering it, but
Yeah.
I'm
They are still
pretty sure they are using it.
Yeah. It's strange that so many still have that mindset, isn't it, though? I think it is actually more than people think. I mean, I know companies that forbid using it as well. And I'm glad to have another example here of an organization that actually do, in a successful way, make use of it and find value from it. But it's surprising how many that don't.
But it's tough. 2 wrongs don't make a right, and it's really hard to you can have the better the devil approach. If we don't deliver it, they're going to use their private phones or private computers or whatnot. I mean, we are abided by law to deliver services that follow the law and handle the information in a good and controlled way.
But if we take a specific problem like hallucination, I mean, a lot of people speak about that, and we know AI really wants to say something, and it sometimes just, in the strong urge to say something, completely makes some facts up. Are you afraid about that, or what's your thinking in your use cases in the government offices about AI hallucinating?
It's something that you need to deal with, and it's a combination of prompt craftsmanship, that you
Yes.
build the correct prompts. You manage your data in a proper way so that it focuses on the right things. But then in the end also you need to validate the precision of what comes out of these assistants. But I think it's unfair to compare these assistants with humans that would be 100% correct all the time.
Would humans be that?
No, it would be unfair to compare them with people that are 100% correct all the times, because we make mistakes as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
right.
Right.
The difficulty is to find measurements or metrics that make sense of that we're not perfect, right? Because we always think that. I had this conversation with Minister of Justice, the one of the departments there, and one of the participants asked, "Well, if I have to read through what the memo, if it's correct, all of it, well, what's the use of it?" And then we asked them to back to them. Well, if you write a memo in Word, do you send it off right away, or do you read it through before you send it away?
Yeah.
Right? So you don't even trust yourself when you produce things, and we have to find ways of dealing with that discrepancy between 100% and 98%.
Well, let me test an angle here. One way of looking at this is that we've been very good at, and we have a legacy where we are good at understanding deterministic systems, and we have built guardrails and processes that works according what is fit to have deterministic systems fitting into a workflow. All of a sudden now we enter in probabilistic systems. So I think it's quite logical that we need to figure out the guardrails and the workflows in order to have probabilistic systems work. And the point is this: with probabilistic systems, you have some huge benefits what you can do, but you have some other mitigations or risks that doesn't exist with the deterministic. So each horses for courses a little bit. So one way for me to look at that is, I think you solved it, is like, well, we need to know our probabilistic processes. They can hallucinate. We call it with jargon. This is not hallucination, it's probabilistic behavior. And then therefore our processes need to account for that.
Yes.
In order to maximize the value from it, but also minimize the risk. It's that simple.
And you have transparency and accountability at each step of the process, not building those big chunks of
Once
black
again,
boxes.
why it's tricky with big chunks, because then you cannot check out the probabilistic nature of what happened.
Yes. So it's a craft, and it's not one size fits all. You need to look at each process and then build accordingly.
It's going a little bit back again, but let's try to make a philosophical question out of it. I mean, like, how much have you needed to reform? I mean, like, so the practical question is, because all the stuff you're saying now, okay, that has made implication. How does the onboarding process look like? Onboarding of it, how do we educate? How do we do change management and all that? Very practical. But if I zoom out of that question to to a more macro level or philosophical level, where do you see the trajectory of how we need to organize work, or how we need to drive change management? That you can see in the small things that you need to do differently now. We need to educate people around this stuff on the job. I'll give you an example. Learning and development as a function was used to happen in a different area, and they had a big course catalog, and it was all quite generic. Philosophy that won't fly with the context of I need to learn exactly what I need to do, and I need to know generic techniques, but then I need to apply it in my context. So all of a sudden, philosophically, you kill the old learning and development function in its old capacity, and it needs to get to a new capacity. Can we elaborate a little bit about? I think there are quite big implications of that you can actually see in the small things that this shifts a lot of stuff, how we learn and how we change.
I think it's just falling back on we need to become a learning organization in different respects, that we will see continuous innovation. That means you need to pick up the new stuff and integrate it into your workflow. But also in another sense, what we see is, like, I've been working at government offices 20 years. So if I would leave, 20 years of experience would leave the house, right? If I trained my AI assistant, 20 years of experience would stay at work. So my successor would come in and interact with that. So that means the organization would become also more of a learning organization. And building structures for that, building ways of administer those assistants so that would stay relevant over time. These are new problems that we need to dive into.
So keeping the knowledge, not just in humans, but actually in the AI in future, could actually make the organizations more of a learning organization.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's a key word here, learning organization. And we need to reassess every single process and how we do things based on that fundamental, simple statement.
We sort of start off the premise that we don't change processes necessarily. I usually think that culture eats organization to breakfast. So once we build an innovative culture with the help of AI, you'll get many things for free.
But then maybe a learning culture,
Yes.
an innovative culture
I
that
think
then
that's-
adapts the organization accordingly. Is that
that-
better way of putting it, maybe?
Yes, I think so. And once you got that, you will get incremental organizational change as well.
Adapting.
I'm starting
and
this
adapting,
way.
I just gotta tell you that, Henrik, it's really cool. So adapting and changing to the times. So the assistants that we're building, we're getting the portfolio. Okay, where should the portfolio land? Who is going to govern the portfolio?
Exactly.
So we have a library in the center of Stockholm, and they came to us and said, people are not renting books anymore. We can take care of governing the So you would go to the library and ask, do you have this book? Instead, now you will go, I need this kind of AI workload.
Är det Love som har de här idéerna? Is it Love? Is it Kobe we're talking about? Or what do you mean with
No,
Love?
our library.
Your library.
Yeah, so
I thought you meant Royal Library.
Oh no, and this is a library with only legal books and finance books. But that's really cool because then they are coming in. Okay, how can we join you guys? How can we be
That's
relevant?
exactly the point, right? So the learning culture leads to learning organization, leads to organizational reform.
And you might also see that what happens with AI is that the knowledge intensity of the organization increases. So you build a more knowledge-based organization. And if you talk about library, AI assistant is like a book, right? It's a knowledge product, but it's more of a dynamic book. So you need to manage that somehow in an organization in a new way. And that's one of the things that we're exploring.
And humans actually are really, really bad at knowledge management, I would argue. So with the help of AI, we can improve humans so much.
Yes.
Right. Okay, and let's move to the last and perhaps even more philosophical question. So for one, if we, at some point in time in the future, get AGI, or can we start with that? Do you believe we will get AGI at some point soon in the future? If we start with Peter?
Yeah, eventually, probably, yeah. The last invention.
In 2, 5, 10, 50 years? 100 years?
I'm leaning more towards 10 than 50.
Magnus?
I'm more a proponent of ASI, artificial specialized intelligence.
Oh, specialized.
Ooh,
Isn't that narrow intelligence?
I'm not a great believer of the business model because behind AGI. You don't need AGI to run my process at my desk, but I need an ASI to run my process at my desk, right? And I will not pay for the tokens of the AGI to run my little process here.
I love this conversation.
I will pay the price for the ASI. So it might turn up. Will it be profitable? We'll see. I think there will be loads of ASIs popping up that will specialize in mining, traffic, health, whatever, that will at least put up a good fight against that AGI.
A good point.
I think it's a great point.
Very similar things for many times here. So we probably will have some very, very huge models, speaking not trillions, but tens or even hundreds of trillions of parameters in them, but no one will be able to use them. They're too expensive.
Yep.
So then will be a large number of SLMs or smaller language models, or ASIs as you call it, and they will be the one we actually make use of. But yeah, in any case, at some point we will have AI that can do much more than today, and also potentially more than humans. If that happens, we can imagine two extremes. One being that AI will do the very dystopian version where they try to kill all humans, and it's the Matrix and the Terminator version of the future of the world. Or it can be the more utopian, the other extreme version, where AI will help to solve all the challenges we have and cure cancer and solve the energy crisis and create basically products and services where the cost goes to zero and we have a world of abundance. Where do you think we will end up in that spectrum?
Most of the larger organizations that are doing good stuff with AI now is putting the humans in the center, and I think with that approach, I'm hopeful. Yeah, I don't believe it will be a dystopian AI end.
Okay, glad to hear it.
Becoming a bit philosophical, then I turn to the theory of extended mind.
Okay, interesting.
Which basically, yes, it basically tells you that if you have two persons, one has a bad memory and one has a good memory, and they're going to go buy milk and what have you in the store, right? One needs to have a notebook to scribble down what he needs to buy. That is, from a cognitive point of view, the same thing.
Yes.
You just extended your mind to something external to your mind. And this is what we see now, right? So we're extending the cognitive capabilities to something outside us. The human is still its center. And we should keep the human in the center. I'm not a big believer of the magical part of intelligence in these language models. To me, they're still just numbers and probabilities. They're a big calculator. If something magical happens in there, I wouldn't know. I still believe that the human will stay in the center of this development. And what we see is an extension of our minds rather than a foreign mind.
I like it. It's very similar to actually Elon speaks about this, and he speaks about the limbic system, the more reactive kind of part of our brain that really moves and thinks in an instinctive way. And then you have the cortex part, that is the more conscious part of the brain that actually do reason about the things we want to do before it actually takes action. But then we, as he calls us, have the tertiary layer, the third layer, meaning the mobile phones we already have in use, or the computers we already have in use. And that's actually part of the human. And if we were to remove it today, so many people would be extremely challenged, because we are so dependent on our tertiary layer already, but we still have the limbic and the cortex system at heart. Right? And then the question is, what happens if AI goes better? And then Elon's answer is Neuralink, right? To integrate even physically with the AI. What about that? Would that be something you would consider?
Extending the cognitive, is that Neuralink next? If you follow that trajectory, you end up in Neuralink then, because then the keyboard is too slow to interact with your tertiary layer.
Well, for certain applications, and especially for disabled people, it's definitely a promising future, I think. For normal people, I'm not sure.
What if you can tenfold your memory capabilities and you just import that brain?
I could use that.
But your philosophical trajectory is cyborg.
Yep.
Not good or bad, but just technically, it's cyborg. When you take it, when you extend that far enough, in the end, you have a bandwidth problem, or a communication
memory
or memory
reasoning
problem, or So the extension of the mind, it leads to cyborg logic,
Yes.
right?
Yes. I'm not sure I want to turn into a cyborg. I want to stay human.
Peter, you want to have a memory chip?
No, definitely not.
But I heard that story, of the fundamental divide of the haves and have-nots, of the riches and the poor, of the guys with oil, and in the end, you can imagine a society where a third is cyborg and has extreme capabilities in terms of what they can do, and the rest of the world is not. Then you get to another answer that some of our podcast guests has said, and it's like, we will have both. We will be on both sides of the spectrum. Why wouldn't we? That's how it looks in the world today. We will have dystopia. We will have. We will not be able to distribute it equally. We have to end up in one spot.
My point here is probably we shouldn't fall into the trap to think that intellectual capital is all there is. People with emotional capital or social capital, that might even be more worth, right? From a human point of view.
Yeah.
So extending our minds in the intellectual way to build more intellectual capital, yes, that's interesting. Is that from a human point of view the most valuable thing we can do?
The whole story even.
Oh, the whole story? Maybe not.
Maybe not.
So
Love it. Cool.
Well, let's wait with the membership and perhaps stick to the digital assistance of the government offices in Sweden,
Yes.
and keep up the great work that you have been doing. And I think you are truly a role model for how
Super
many
inspiring.
more agencies should do this, putting the technology in the hands of the people and letting them explore it and empower themselves. Thank you so much for coming here, Peter Nordström and Magnus Enzell.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.